take any meeting All right, so here we go. Let's see. This light back there is a little bit bright. Too dark. It's actually probably this front one. Nah, it's not that one. Anywho, I'm gonna push that light up. Yeah, I think that's better. All right. So this is going to be the White House press briefing that happened today. It's going to be where they're actually talking about what happened with President Biden. Does he have any health issues? I'm just kind of curious to see what is going on with that. So we're going to tune in. Let me switch over. And why are we not showing? There we go. Okay, this one. Yep. All right, so hit play and let's see what's going on.
Meetings during the time that she'll be
I
watching.
can't speak for the Vice President's staff and team, but I can have them get back to you about what her schedule is going to look like.
Thank you so much, Admiral.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Admiral.
All right, so let's see what she has to say.
Okay.
What happened
well,
with Biden? Does he have any health
all the big
issues?
questions have been
I
answered.
think most of us obviously don't want Biden to have health issues. I don't think anybody's rooting for that. We would like to know what actually is going on with our president. So let's go ahead and listen to see what she has to say.
Press conference answer. Let me close my book and get out of here. Hi, Zeke.
Thanks, Green. My first to you is on the credibility of this White House when it comes to talking about the president's health. When you were here last Tuesday, you were asked if the president had any medical examinations since his physical in February or that included the time period after the debate. You said flatly no. 3 days later, you admitted the president had a quote, short check-in with the medical team thereafter. I mean, those are two very different answers.
No. Actually, if you were to listen to I think I did a 30-minute gaggle on Friday, 30 minutes with, I think it was.
So she came back later and said that he actually did see a medical doctor after the debate.
With the pool, and I said he did not have a medical. I cleared it up. You're right. You're correct. I said he didn't. I still stand, but he didn't have a medical exam. I said that in the gaggle, and you're right. I said that in the briefing. He had a check-in with, and he said this on Friday.
So they
he
did
had a
give him
check-in
an
with
exam.
with his medical doctor, which is something that he does a couple times a week, as you know, and I stated this as well. He has, for those who don't know, obviously outside of the briefing room, outside of the White House, many Americans don't actually understand this, so let's take a step back. They deal with their medical issues or physicals very, very differently. They are very, they are lucky if they get to see their doctor once or twice a year, right? They have to get in a car, they have to either take public transportation in order to make that happen. The president's medical unit is literally down on the other side of the colonnade, is just down the steps from the residence. And so a couple times a week, he does a check-in, a verbal check-in with his doctor while he's exercising. That is something that happens often. Matter of fact, he did a check-in today because I know folks were going to ask about if he was tested for COVID. He was not. We are following CDC guidance. He was not tested for COVID, just to let you
I'm pretty sure he came back and he said he didn't have COVID. He just had a cold.
guys know about that one. And if he has any symptoms, obviously, we would test him.
Is that
But
in the context of the second gentleman's diagnosis?
yes, which is why. No. It's in context of the second gentleman. But to answer your point, he did not have a medical exam. He did not have a physical. He did do like a verbal check-in with his doctor a couple days after the debate, and it was very quick. It was a couple of words that were spoken to each other, and that's how we were able to give you that answer. But he did not have a medical exam. He did not have a physical.
So he didn't have an exam.
Did you
She
know about
keeps
that verbal check-in?
going back and
No.
forth. Like she doesn't know what she's saying.
So the line of questions that I was getting that day was, in the way that I was hearing the question, was about the medical exam. I answered MJ's question when she asked me medical exam.
Look, it's really not that hard of a question. Did he go to the doctor or did he not? It's that simple.
And I answered and I said no, physical. And then somebody else asked me, was there a check-in? I did not mean to steer anybody wrong. I was still thinking about the medical exam. I was still thinking about the physical. That's how I answered the question. And then when it became, when the president actually spoke to it, I went back, asked the medical doctor, and he said they had a verbal check-in. That's what he said. But in answering the question, I was talking about the medical exam. I was talking about the physical.
And then quick ones. There's been a lot of reporting in the last 24 hours about a Parkinson's expert who's come to visit the White House almost a dozen times over the last year or so, including at least one meeting with the president's physician. Could you state, like, very clearly, yes or no, was that expert here to participate in anything surrounding the care of the President of the United States?
So let me just say a couple of things. We have had a comprehensive, and I just want to take another step back, comprehensive physical examination. The president has had that. We've given a comprehensive report. We've shared that the past 3 years. Every year that he has had this exam, he sees a neurologist. And just to give you a quote from that, from the report most recently in February, an extremely detailed neurological exam was again reassuring in that there were no findings which would be consistent with any cerebellar or other central neurological disorder, such as a stroke, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, or ascending lateral sclerosis, end quote. So that came directly from in February in that comprehensive report that was provided by the president's doctor to me, that I share with all of you. So anyone who is watching can certainly go to our website.
Which was this expert's visits, was multiple visits to the White House pertaining at all?
She didn't answer the question at all. And they're not really giving a reason for his poor performance. They're just kind of glossing over the issue.
The president's
Well,
care.
here's the thing. I've said he has had three. He has had three physicals. In those 3 physicals, that's when he has seen a specialist, a neurological specialist. I have to be super mindful here, and this is why, and I'll explain this to you in a second. There are thousands of military personnel who come onto this White House. Many of them get the care from the White House medical unit, and so need to be super careful. There are, the medical unit hosts a wide range of specialists, from dermatologists to neurologists.
Yeah, just blame the
I cannot
military.
speak to every person because there's actually a security reasons to protect their privacy. We respect and protecting people's privacy, so do not want to share. I'm not going to share people's names from here, but the president, I can tell you, has seen a neurologist 3 times, as it's connected to a physical that he gets every year that we provide to all of you.
It's a very basic, direct question.
Wait, hold on, wait
Come to the White House
a second.
8 times, or at least once, in regards to the president specifically.
Hold on a second.
Not what you should be able to answer by this point.
Wait,
After
no.
4 days of reporting about it.
It's a yes or no question. I don't see why she can't just be upfront about it.
No, wait a minute. Ed, please. A little respect here, please.
There was
So,
nothing he said
every
that was
year,
disrespectful.
Around the president's physical examination, he sees a neurologist. That's 3 times, right? So I am telling you that he has seen a neurologist 3 times while he has been in this presidency.
That's not the question
That's
that
what
was
I'm saying.
asked.
I am telling you that he has seen them 3 times. That is what I'm sharing with you, right? So every time he has a physical, he has had to see a neurologist. So that is answering that question.
No, it's not.
No, it is. It is. You're
Dr.
asking me.
Kevin Kennard come
I
to the
cannot.
White House
But I
specifically about
also
the
said to you,
president's
This is
Ed,
so
I also said to you,
ridiculous,
for
like-
security reasons, we cannot share names. We cannot share names.
You cannot
We
share
have to
names
we have
of
to.
others he would have met with.
We
but
cannot-
you can share names in regards to if
We-
someone came here in
no,
regards to
we
the
cannot
president.
share. We cannot share names of specialists broadly, from a dermatologist to a neurologist. We cannot share names. There are security reasons. We
No,
have
White
to.
House visitor.
We have to protect.
It's public.
I understand
I
that.
looked it up before I came out
I
here.
hear
It's
you.
right there for anyone to see.
Ed, I hear you. I cannot
It's getting
from
heated
here
now.
confirm any of that because we have to keep their privacy. I think they would appreciate that too. We have to give them.
Information of the doctor.
We have to
crazy.
keep their privacy.
It is
It's
public.
public
I
information.
hear you.
listed that he
I
went
am.
to
And you're
the
going to
president.
allow this to fester
guys,
longer, Kareem,
guys,
unless the White House
guys,
answers the
hold on a
question.
second. There's no
Guys,
reason to get
guys.
back and go back and forth and be in this
Well,
aggressive
we're
Come
way.
on.
miffed around here about how information's been shared with the press corps about him.
What do you missed about? What do you missed
Everything
about?
he just asked about.
What do you? And then every time I come back and I answer the question that
And
you guys
answered
asked.
incorrectly, you didn't have to
She
come back
didn't
and clean
answer
I
it.
never
the question,
answered the
though.
question incorrectly. That is not true. I was asked about a medical exam. I was asked about a physical. That was in the line of question that I answered. And I said, no, he did not have a medical exam. And I still stand by that. Matter of fact, the president still stands by that. He had a verbal check-in. That is something that the president has a couple times a week. A couple times a week.
Now in regards to Dr. Kevin Kennard.
And I am telling you right now that I am not sharing, confirming names from here. It is a security reasons. I am not going to do that, Ed. It doesn't matter how hard you push me. It doesn't matter how angry you get with me. I'm not going to confirm a name. It doesn't matter if it's even in the log. I am not going to do that from here. That is not something I am going to do. What I
Insane.
can share with you is that the president has seen a neurologist for his physical 3 times. 3 times. And it is in the reporting that we share a comprehensive reporting. Matter of fact, it's more than what the last guy shared, and it is in line with what George W. Bush did. It's
When
in
all else
line
fails, you
with
just gotta
what
blame
Obama
Trump.
did. And so it is
That's the thing you
comprehensive.
gotta do
It is out
every time.
there. I just read a quote from it, but I am not going to devolve somebody's name or confirm someone. I'm not going to do that. That is as privacy for that person. I'm not going to do that. It doesn't matter how hard you push me. It doesn't matter how angry you get with me from here. I'm just not going to do that. It is inappropriate. It is not acceptable. So I'm not going to do it.
Not about the name.
Go ahead.
If you
No, go ahead.
cannot confirm the name, can
Yeah.
you confirm whether or not the president has seen this Parkinson's specialist? And you mentioned 3 times, but the visitor logs show a duration of 8 visits over 8 months. I think that is the crux of the question.
But I also said there are thousands of military personnel that come to the White House, and they are under the care of the medical unit. They are.
Can you confirm that the Parkinson's visits, specialist visits were for the president or not?
What I can tell you is that the president has seen a neurologist 3 times, and I read to you what the neurologist has said.
She's not going to give an
And I
answer.
read to you the last line. I could say it again. No findings which would be consistent with any cerebellar or other central neurological disorders such as stroke, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, or ascending lateral sclerosis. That is from February. That is coming from February. That is what the medical unit, the president's doctor, shared. And I said to you, it's happened 3 times. Each time there is a physical that occurs, and we put out a comprehensive report. That is when he has been able to see a specialist. So that's what I can share.
Question on this. has the president, you mentioned Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, all of these things. One diagnosis that we have heard of, potential diagnosis, is hydrocephalus, which is fluid buildup in the brain. It's something we've never heard in any of the medical reports. Is that something that the president has been evaluating?
If it's not in the medical report, obviously it's not something that the president is dealing with.
She's not going to tell you
I
anyway.
can tell you this. Just going back to Parkinson's for a little bit. So
According to her, Biden is still the pinnacle of health. She is never going to let you know anything that's going on.
give you some answers here. Has the president been treated for Parkinson's? No. Is he being treated for Parkinson's? No, he's not. Is he taking medication for Parkinson's? No. So those are the things that I can give you full-blown answers on. But I'm not going to confirm a specialist, any specialist that comes to the White House out of privacy.
Question is, will the president go to the Hill today? I know we saw his letter. Is he intending to have this conversation face to face with him?
So look, the president, obviously this is someone who is a senator for 36 years, who was the president of the Senate as when he was vice president for 8 years. And he truly respects the members of Congress, and has always and will always do that, especially as a former senator. And I will say, and you've heard us say this before, or most recently, is this is a president who's won the primary, right, by 14 million votes, 87% of those votes, so certainly. And look, I don't have any engagements to read out, outside of that. But I will say that the president was in Pennsylvania. I just mentioned at the top, he got to see Senator Fetterman, Senator Casey. He also got to see Congresswoman Dean. He spent some time with them. They traveled across Pennsylvania. And I will say, when the president gets knocked down, he gets back up. This is quintessential Joe Biden. And there are a long list of other congressional members who have shown their support for this president. I don't have anything else to read out. You saw the letter. The letter was, I think, pretty clear on where.
And he already said he was not quitting.
And I'll just leave it there.
He is still running.
You've noted
He's not
that
going
there are
anywhere.
thousands within the Walter Reed system who may be treated by a specialist who visits here at the White House. But this neurologist had a meeting with the president's physician, with his doctor. You're
I understand
refusing
that.
to say if he was here to evaluate the president or if he
understand.
was consulting on the president's health.
I didn't know that.
What then was that meeting
He met
about?
with
And
his
I will say
doctor.
that Dr. O'Connor leads the medical unit. He leads the medical unit. No, because we will not confirm or speak to names that you're providing to me.
She's
It
not
is
going
out
to
of
say
security
if
reasons,
it's
is
true
out
or
of
not.
Protecting someone's privacy. We're just not going.
And if it is true, you got to give it to her. That was
They
pretty
are. The
witty to
reason
say,
that I
"Oh, he's the
mention that is
lead
because
of the
there
medical
are
unit.
1,000
He has
military
to
members
communicate with
that do
everyone."
indeed
It's pretty witty. I'll give her that.
Use the White House medical unit. They do.
But
They
we're
get
not talking
care
about
from
those
that.
other people. We're talking about the
I
president
know,
of the
but
United
I'm
States.
trying, guys, I'm trying to answer the question so you can connect the dot that there are multiple neurologists that come, not neurologists, specialists that come through here, because there are more than 1,000 medical military personnel here.
But you certainly could clear this all up just by saying what he was doing here and if it was connected to the president, yes or no.
I am not going to confirm a particular neurologist, anybody. It doesn't matter if they're a dermatologist or a neurologist. I'm just not going to do that.
Or what?
I shared with all of you that the president has been with the neurologist 3 times as it relates to his physical, 3 times. So I'm just
I wonder how
not-
other countries are
guys,
looking at
I'm
this.
just
Well,
not
they're.
going to do that out of security reasons. Out
I
of
think they look at
privacy.
it as
It is
entertainment.
not something that I'm going to do. A measure of privacy. We have to be able to give people from here.
One other question.
looking for clarity.
The president's doctor, you say, has seen no reason to evaluate him for Parkinson's since his physical in February. Is that based on these verbal check-ins that you've been describing, based on his public appearances?
Wait, say that one more time.
You've said that the president's doctor has seen no reason to evaluate him or reevaluate him for Parkinson's since that physical. in
Did he
February.
watch the debate?
What is that based on? Is it these
Well,
verbal check-ins?
I never said
That's
that.
what the White House has said.
Well, what I have said is what I have said is that he just had a physical just in February, and the physical was very clear. It was a comprehensive physical. We gave out a report on that, and as it relates to the check-ins, that is something that is common. The president has a medical unit that is literally down the hall that he's able to check in with when necessary. They normally do it while he's exercising. That is not uncommon. It is very different. Than any everyday American. They do not have that option. They do not have that access because he's president of the United States. Every other president has had that access, and they are able to do that.
So just to be clear, yes or no, has his physician seen a reason to reevaluate him for Parkinson's since the February physical?
No, the comprehensive report that you all have stands. The president obviously will have another physical, and we'll wait for that physical.
Great.
Chris,
Yeah.
so the president has said twice that he's had neurological evaluations as part of his physicals, you know, in these various interviews today and also on ABC. But there have been a number of people who have said, listen, you know, why don't you have a cognitive test?
Child's Play, or more like a place full of people working for a government's entertainment and war funding BS while our people are hungry and poor. No wonder China laughed at Biden a while back.
Just to rule out that there are any issues. Would the president, you know, would you counsel him to do that just to sort of put an end to these questions?
Andre, I hear you. The neurologists have said it is not warranted. The president himself, he said it
was not warranted. Now look, nobody wants something to be wrong with Biden. If you do, you're a horrible person. Nobody wants that. But to look at Biden and to say there's nothing wrong, and you're trying to tell me that a medical professional is saying there's nothing wrong, I don't believe that.
Today, he said it multiple times, and the doctor has said this. Everything that he does day in and day out as it relates to delivering for the American people is a cognitive test. And that is what the medical doctor has said. That is what the specialist has said. I just want to take a step back for a second, because I do take offense to what Ed alluded to. You know, come out here, every day there's a press briefing, and we do our best to give you the information that we have at the time. That's what we do.
And to dodge questions.
And we understand.
It's sad they're
freedom
using
of
him
the
as a
press,
puppet.
respect for
Absolutely.
freedom of the press. You heard me talk about
It is
this last
elderly
week.
abuse.
I appreciate the back and forth that we all have. I try to respect you, and I hope you try to respect me. And we literally do everything that we can. My team does everything that we can to make sure we get the answers to you. That's what we do. And sometimes
I believe
we
he's a
disagree.
kind old man. Yeah, it's
Sometimes
upsetting.
we are not in agreement.
It's like
But you
seeing
know
your
what?
grandpa
That's
up there,
democracy.
but
that is what is important.
nobody
to have
will
that healthy back and forth.
just let him go home and
so
watch The Price is Right.
To say that
and
I'm holding
be old.
information or allude to anything else is not unfair. It's really, really unfair. I think people who are watching and have been watching this briefing for this past week could say that we are doing our best in this briefing to provide the information that we have. And I will admit, I will be
And
the
dodge
first one to
questions.
admit, sometimes I get it wrong. At least I admit that. At least I admit that. And sometimes I don't have the information. And I will always, always admit that. But I do take offense to what was just happening at the beginning of this briefing. It's not okay. Go ahead.
We are seeking clarity.
Okay.
I understand that.
And I think what we're trying to say is when a name is in a public record on a waives form, that it is in the public domain.
Yep.
The president could authorize that his medical records or additional medical information could be made public because he could waive HIPAA, he could do those things.
Yep.
He could be
And if he
transparent about his
chooses to do that,
issues.
we would like to know more.
But he would
Part of
rather
the-
be president.
We are pressing here is that we are not clear on what has happened, and therefore the American people to whom we report don't have a sense of it. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And
But the
so,
personal attacks is not okay.
and we want to have a
Just want to be
positive.
very, very clear here.
So the question is, one question
What is she talking about?
after,
Nobody is personally attacking
a
her.
debate that drew
They're
days
trying to
and
get
days and days
clarity.
of scrutiny.
That's her job.
Why hasn't the president had an in-person physical check-in? Maybe blood work, maybe other things,
Yeah.
because when he said he was seen, I certainly thought he had been physically seen, not a phone check-in.
No.
So and that's part
Yeah,
of what we're
when
saying.
you
about
say
how
you've been
information comes out
seen,
in waves, and
you
then
have
we
to have
may
eyes
have a different
on.
impression. So
And I totally
this has
understand that.
dominated his presidency
Yeah.
for 10 days, and he could submit to another exam, a full exam, partial exam, whatever. He can waive his right to make things public. None of us are asking about the military members who might be seeing a physician here. None of us. We are only asking
Yeah.
about the president's well-being.
Understood.
And so that's why we want to understand. When you see
Yeah.
on the public records that a physician with his specialty has come to the White House, gone to the residence clinic, and met with the president's physician, we feel like there is more to be said there, and that's what we're asking.
And I understand that, Kelly-O, and you know I respect you wholeheartedly, and I've known you for some time. We want to be also, because we are talking about someone whose name who is out there, and I understand. I get it. It's in the law. I get that. It's in the law.
What's the security concern?
We want to respect that person and give them the measure of privacy that they deserve. The moment I say anything about any specialist, it becomes a thing from this podium. So what I can share, and this is what I can share, he has seen a neurologist 3 times. 3 times, not more than that. Not more than that. He's seen a neurologist 3 times.
3 times.
And that is connected to the physical, the comprehensive physical that we have been able to share with you. So I think that gives you some information about how many times. 3 times. And the reason why I am sharing that there are thousands of military personnel, so you also have an understanding, because there are 1,000 military personnel that comes here, and that not just comes here, but under the care of the medical unit, right? They get care from the White House medical unit. There tends to be dermatologists, from dermatologists to neurologists.
I don't see why she's pinning this on the military members, like they're a bunch of cockroaches that are scurrying around with diseases and spreading it to the president. It's not just the military members that are on the base there, as well as in the White House. It's everybody. It's government, civilians. I don't understand why she's specifically pinning it on the military.
If you would waive some of his records and make those.
Well, I don't know how all of that works. I'm not going to pretend I know how that works. And what I will do is certainly we'll share that information with the powers that be. I just don't want to get into a back and forth on that particular question.
Thanks, Corinne. I mean, to Kelly-O's point, the president today, when he called into Morning Joe, he said that he had released all of his medical records. Should we take that as an indication that he's going to do so?
Well, look, what I can say is that we have shared a comprehensive medical report that is pretty detailed, that is in line with other presidents, certainly not the last one, but the ones, the 2 before.
All else fails, you just got to blame Trump.
And we have been pretty much in line with what they have done. To be more clear, George W. Bush and also President Obama. So we've been.
The last one did let his doctors come to the briefing room to speak to us.
Okay, and we know what that last president said from this briefing room. Okay, so
and
only did 3 or 4 paragraphs. Very different approach.
During the call today to MSNBC, was the president reading off of a script?
So I was in the room when the president called into Morning Joe. The president spoke from his heart. The president was very clear. There was no script at all. And he was very detailed. You heard him say actually during the call that he was reading some quotes. He said it. He shared that information. He was reading some quotes from the debate. So he shared that with you. What you heard was a passionate interview. It was about 18 minutes. He talked about and laid out his vision for this country. He talked about how he wants to make sure we move forward. I want to be really careful because he also talked about the campaign, which I can't do from here. But he I think it was incredibly powerful.
I didn't watch it.
Quotes,
so.
but not from a script.
I don't know what she's talking about.
It was not a script.
In a big boy press conference, how many questions should we expect that he is going to take?
So look, it is going to be a solo press conference. It is going to be certainly more than a 2+2. I'm not going to, we're still working it out, so I'm not going to go into specifics from here. But you could expect a solo press conference from this president at the end of the NATO summit. He's looking forward to it, and he will be taking your questions, so that'll be a good thing.
But he just did an interview too.
Great. I have 2 questions. One, a follow-up on Dr. Kennard, and that is, can you explain what the role of Megan Nasworthy is? Does she oversee care for some of those military personnel that you were referencing as a group, or does she oversee care for the president?
I believe, again, want to be careful here.
There we go.
I know who you're speaking of. I don't have her full portfolio in front of me, so I would have my team and I will be happy to get back to you.
Okay. And then on the president's and the White House's engagement with House Democrats, and Democrats more broadly, there was an article a month ago in the Wall Street Journal that the White House universally panned because the on-the-record quotes criticizing the president's age and acuity were largely from Republicans. But I want to ask about the graphs in that story about Democrats. It said that the
From
White
that
House...
same story.
From that same story. It said that the White House kept close tabs on the Journal's interviews with Democratic lawmakers, and after the offices of several Democrats shared with the White House either a recording of an interview or details about what was asked, some of those lawmakers spoke to the Journal a second time and once again emphasized Biden's strength. They quote Congressman Gregory Meeks, a New York Democrat, saying, "They just, said that I should give you a call back." I'm wondering if you could characterize what the White House told Democrats to tell reporters about the
I think the Democrats spoke for themselves. I think, you know how stories work. There's a lot of back and forth. When you all come with a story from us, and we want to make sure you hear from other voices, we make that available to you all. And it's up to the reporters if they're going to reach out or not to that particular person. But we expect and we anticipate and we understand that it doesn't matter who, if it's a congressperson or a governor or any elected official, they're going to speak for themselves. They're going to speak for themselves. And I would say that Representative Greg Meeks has also been very supportive. If you fast forward to where we are today, Representative Meeks has been very supportive of this president, moving forward, and we've heard from many others. The CBC more broadly has been very supportive. We heard from the chair, Chairman Hosford from the CBC, and so that is the type of support that we continue to see.
So there hasn't been outreach by the White House to Democrats who might have misgivings about the president's age or acuity to have them say positive things about the president publicly?
I don't quite understand where you're going with the question. I think I explained it. Sometimes when you
Are
are
people
working on
being
stories,
pressed to lie about his age? It's a pretty simple question.
And we were trying to provide supporters from the president. That is not unusual. And it is up to the reporter to reach out or not. And so that is something that we certainly do. That is something that, that is not uncommon. But what I would say more broadly, there are congressional members, as we're talking about what's happening in Congress, as we're talking about the president's outreach, as we're talking about, how we move forward. There are congressional members out there who have been incredibly supportive. We have to remember there are hundreds of House members, and so. There are folks out there.
The president's outreach today and tomorrow ahead of these all conference and all caucus meetings.
So what I can say is that, as you all know, the president has done some outreach. He's spoke about it himself. I can say, as of today, he is engaged with dozens of members, whether in person or on calls. We saw him engaging with congressional members over the weekend. We saw him doing that on several of the trips that he has done over the past 10 days. There have been about 6 states that he's been able to stop over and engage with supporters. So he's been able to do that. And there's a long list. I'm trying to spare you the list here, but there is a long list. Senator Chris Coons, Senator John Fetterman, Senator Alex Padilla, Senator Chuck Schumer, Senator Bernie Sanders, Senator Raphael Warnock. It goes on and on. Representative Clyburn, Al Green.
Just trying to buy some
Horsford,
time
as I
now.
mentioned already. There has been a long list of, we believe, incredibly supportive congressional members who have continued.
That have been provided to us from the campaign too, but I'm wondering if the president has spoken directly with Leader Schumer and Minority Leader Jeffries in the last 24 hours, and whether the president
I hear you. We shared that just last week, that the president spoke to the leadership, obviously on the Democratic side.
Has he spoken to them since yesterday?
I don't have anything to read out to you as far as what we've shared with you last week, but the president has been in regular touch. And those conversations went very, very well. I think he mentioned, in particular, Leader Jeffries, that went almost for an hour. The president said that himself.
This
He said
question is
how
not
much
really
they had
leading
a
anywhere.
very good conversation. The president saw Congresswoman Dean, as I mentioned. He saw both senators of Pennsylvania as well yesterday, traveled across the state, and had really two big events with supporters, with Americans who got to hear directly from the president. And I think that's important. Again, Michael.
Thanks, Corinne. Were all 3 of President Biden's neurological exams that you've confirmed, were they all conducted at Walter Reed?
Look, I don't have anything to state as to location. What I can say for sure that he has seen a neurologist 3 times as it relates to the exam
debate?
that he takes every year.
Oh.
And I just don't have a location to speak to.
Well, let me just try
Sure.
a different way. I mean, has any neurologist?
And
I'm not-
and you also know that the president does go to Walter Reed
Yes, I mean,
to
it
do
seemed like those were taken out.
right
Yeah.
to do his physical exams.
Well, has a neurologist? I'm not talking about
Yeah.
anyone in particular, regardless of the identity, name of that person. Has any neurologist came to the White House to visit President Biden?
What I can tell you during those exams that we have been able to do every year for the past 3 years, and there's a comprehensive exams that
We're
we
just
share a comprehensive
rephrasing the
report that we
question
share
now.
with all of you. He has seen a
And that's
neurologist.
why I'm trying to clarify. It seems like those were taken at Walter Reed. And so it's an important distinction in all this.
You all know that he does indeed go to Walter Reed as part of his physical exam. That is no secret. That is something that he does. And I also confirmed that he sees a neurologist every time that he's done these exams. I don't have anything beyond that.
Thanks.
I know.
Front.
I know. Go ahead, April.
Corinne, as everyone is talking about neurological issues, this is different but kind of on that same page. The president has had 2 aneurysms, okay? And there are complications from aneurysms to include impaired short-term memory, inability to concentrate, as well as speech difficulties. Have any neurologists worked with him or just trying to observe him as he is a person who has suffered from 2 aneurysms that could have been fatal?
I didn't actually know that.
April, in the comprehensive reporting that we share with all of you on a yearly basis, the neurological exam have been detailed, extremely detailed. It is directly from the doctor. They talk about the specifics of that neurological exam. And so I would refer you to the 6-page comprehensive memo, and that's what I would refer you to.
But that is something that we know about, that he had 2 aneurysms.
Yeah.
And that is part, all of those complications are part of a neurological exam. Have they tested for that at all? Do you know?
What I can tell you is that the exams have been detailed, they have been extensive, and that's what I can share with you. I would refer you to the document, to the report.
Question.
Sure.
We're just days away from the Republican convention. How do you, as this White House who stands behind this president, how do you work to do an image change to revamp him, to make him shinier and brighter, if you will?
So I'm not going to speak to the Republican convention. That's something that I'm not going to do, but I am going to. Wait, hold on a second. Hold on, give me a second. Look, in the past 10 days, the president has gone to 6 states. He has. He's gone to North Carolina, New Jersey, New York.
They're gonna blame it on the travel
Georgia,
again.
Pennsylvania. I know that's a Commonwealth, but
It's not the
been to
travel.
6.
He's just
And
old.
in that time, he has engaged directly with the American public. And you've seen the enthusiasm, you've seen the energy. He's been able to talk to them directly and talk about his goals for the future. Talk about what he's done in the past 3.5 years. They have heard specifically from him on even his health, even the debate. And I think that's important too. So, and you just heard me lay out the next 2 weeks. So the president's going to continue to go out there. He's going to continue to be present in the communities. He's going to continue to hear directly from the American people. And that's the best way to do this. That's the best way to get out there. That's the best way to make sure that you have your finger on the pulse and that the American people get to see you for themselves.
To the Republican convention, what about the Democratic convention?
I can't speak to the Democratic convention either. I can't speak to that. That's for the
Democrats want to
know.
know.
But you're asking me to speak to 2 things that I can't speak to from here.
Because even the Democrats are losing faith in him. You even see it on Reddit, which is the most Democrat, pro-Biden place you can be, and even they have lost faith in Biden after that debate.
Something that the campaign and the convention can speak to very, very
right at the end of
April, you may not like my answer, but I'm telling you the president's going to continue to go out there. I just shared with you at the top a robust plan that the president has to be out there, whether it is in Vegas, whether it's in Texas, and let's not forget the other states that he's visited in the last 10 days. In the last 10 days. There's a stark difference from what we've been doing and what the other side is doing. Stark difference.
Back to blaming Trump.
And so the president is
When
committed.
all else fails, just got to blame Trump.
Do that. He wants to engage directly with the American people. 600 people at the church yesterday, 600 people at the event in Harrisburg. That's a pretty good start. And that's just a continuation. That's actually not a start. That's a continuation. Go ahead, Josh. I know. I'm getting you.
Is it still the administration's policy that physicals are done annually?
Yes, that is just like every other president has done before this president. We're going to continue to uphold that.
So it would be fair to us to assume that as of now, his next expected physical would be next year?
It would be next year. The last one was in February.
Can you clarify for us, forgive me, I might have missed it, or by design, he will or he won't go to the Hill tomorrow?
Say that one more time. Oh, I don't have any engagement to share. As you know, NATO is front of mind. That's what he's focused on. You saw that letter that came out from the president. He's going to be focusing on the more than 30 world leaders that are coming here for 75th anniversary of NATO, continuing to show the strength of our alliance. I think it is something that the president's very much looking forward to. And you'll certainly hear from the president on Thursday when he gives his press conference, his big boy press conference, as your colleague Justin has stated many times.
I'll give him your regards.
Yeah.
We shouldn't expect then some sort of big outreach push to Democratic.
I mean, look, I just shared that he has done dozens of calls, not just calls, but also face-to-face, as he did in Pennsylvania. His team, campaign side, they're going to do their thing. We're going to do our thing on our side. And he, respects tremendously Congress. And so he's in regular contact with them, and that's what you're going to continue to see. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everyone.
There it is. That is your White House press brief. All right, so I'm going to go to the restroom. And when I get back, Biden actually did an interview here with ABC where he talks about his issues at the debate. So I'm going to load that up here. I'll be right back. Give me a second. All right, and I am back. All right, so this is going to be a one-on-one interview with President Biden where he's going to talk about what happened at the debate. I saw a little bit of it, and he pretty much said that it was a bad night. Things happen. He made mistakes by traveling, but I want to kind of watch it for myself to see what exactly he had to say in detail. Now, I'm assuming because this is ABC, it's probably going to be heavily edited. So we're going to go ahead and watch and see how many times we can see the frames get cut. So let's go ahead and start this one.
President Joe Biden, his first.
Yeah, we don't care about all that.
The afternoon.
Blah, blah, blah.
You and your team have said you had a bad night.
Turn the volume down a little bit.
But your friend Nancy Pelosi actually framed the question that I think is on the minds of millions of Americans. Was this a bad episode?
Maybe around there.
Or the
Okay.
sign of a more serious condition?
It was a bad episode. No indication of any serious condition. I was exhausted.
Just a bad episode, man.
Listen to my instincts.
Come on.
In terms of preparing, and I had a bad night.
You know, you say you were exhausted, and I know you've said that before as well, but you came, and you did have a tough month, but you came home from Europe about 11 or 12 days before the debate, spent 6 days in Camp David. Why wasn't that enough rest time, enough recovery time?
Because I was sick. I was feeling terrible. Matter of fact, the docs with me, I asked if they did a COVID test because they were trying to figure out what was wrong. They did a test to see whether or not I had some infection, a virus. I didn't. They just had a really bad cold.
And did you ever watch the debate afterwards?
I don't think I did, no.
Well, what I want to get at is what were you
don't know?
experiencing as you were going through the debate? Did you know how badly it was going?
Yeah, look. The whole way I prepared, nobody's fault, mine. Nobody's fault but mine.
Of course.
I prepared what I usually would do, sitting down, as I did come back with foreign leaders or the National Security Council, for explicit detail. And I realized about partway through that, I get quoted, the New York Times had me down at 10 points before the debate, 9 now, or whatever the hell it is. The fact of the matter is that what I looked at is that he also lied 28 times. The way the debate ran, not my fault, nobody else's fault. No one else's fault.
Was he trying to blame the New York Times for shaking his confidence and then somehow lost train of thought there to turn it around and say that because Trump was lying that shook his confidence or something? I don't know what he's really getting at with that.
Even before he spoke.
Well, I just had a bad night. You've had some bad interviews.
That's fair.
Well, I can't remember any, but I'm sure you did.
I've had plenty.
That's fair.
I guess the question, the problem is here for a lot of Americans watching is you've said, going back to 2020, watch me, to people who are concerned about your age. And, 50 million Americans watched that debate. It seemed to confirm fears they already had.
Well, look.
Ouch. That was a pretty hard hit. I'll give him that. That was a good one.
10 major events in a row, including till 2 o'clock in the morning after that debate. I did events in North Carolina. I did events in Georgia. Did events like this today. Large crowds, overwhelming response, no slipping. And so I just had a bad night. I don't know why.
And how quickly did it come to you that you were having that bad night?
Well, it came to me as having a bad night when I realized that even when I was answering a question, even though they turned his mic off, he was still shouting. And I let it distract me. I'm not blaming it on that.
You just did blame it on that, though. You literally just, I'm not making excuses, but I'm going to make some excuses.
But I realized that I just wasn't in control.
But part of the other concern is...
Look, they shut the guy's mic off. What more do you want? I mean, yeah, Trump could be a little bit more, I don't know, professional, I guess, but come on.
That this seems to have fit into a pattern of decline that has been reported on recently. The New York Times had a headline on July 2nd, Biden's lapses are said to be increasingly common and worrisome. Here's what they wrote. People who have spent time with President Biden over the last few months or so said the lapses appear to have grown more frequent, more pronounced, and after Thursday's debate, more worrisome.
Absolutely.
By many accounts, as evidenced by video footage, observation, and interviews, Mr. Biden is not the same today as he was even when he took office 3.5 years ago.
That's heartbreaking. You can see him taking all of this in, and it's heartbreaking because you can tell he's a shell of his former self, and nobody wants anything to be wrong with him. Definitely not saying anything like that. It's just that he is old. He's in a decline, and it's time for him to go home and watch The Price is Right.
Similar reporting in the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal. Are you the same man today that you were when you took office 3.5 years ago?
Absolutely not.
Says yes. I also was the guy who put together a peace plan for the Middle East that may be coming to fruition. I was also the guy that expanded NATO. I was also the guy that grew the economy. All the individual things that were done were ideas I had or I fulfilled. I moved on. And so, for example, you know, well, that was true then. What's Biden done lately? Today, just announced 200,000 new jobs. We're moving in a direction that no one's ever taken on. I know you know this from the days in the government. I took on Big Pharma. I beat them. No one said I could beat them. I took on all the things we said we got done. We were told we couldn't get done.
He beat Medicaid too.
What I said when I ran was I wanted to do three things: restore some decency to the office, restore some support for the middle class instead of trickle-down economics built from the middle out and the bottom up. That way the wealthy still do fine, everyone does better, and unite the country.
But what has all that work over the last 3.5 years cost you physically, mentally, emotionally?
Well, I just think it cost me a really bad night, a bad run. But, you know, George, I'm optimistic about this country. I don't think we're a country of losers that he points out. I don't think America.
They're talking about you, not this country. Don't twist it around.
Many incredible opportunities. This next term, I'm going to make sure we have straighten out the tax system. I'm going to make sure we're in a situation where we have health care for all people, where we're in a position where we have child care and elder care, free up, and all these things. The one thing I'm proudest of is, remember when my economic plan was put forward, a lot of the mainstream economists said it's not going to work. Well, guess what? You now have 16 Nobel laureates, 16 of them in economics, saying that Biden's next term would be, based on what he wants to do, enormous success. Trump's plan would cause a recession, would significantly increase inflation. I've made great progress, and that's what I plan on doing, and we can do this.
I understand that, and I'm not disputing that. What I'm asking you is about your personal situation. Do you dispute that there have been more lapses, especially in the last
There you go.
months?
Flip it back around. That's the question.
Can I run the 110 flat? No, but I'm still in good shape.
Are you more frail?
No.
I know you spoke.
My schedule.
I know you spoke with your doctor after the debate. What did he say?
He said, he just looked at me and said, "You're exhausted." I said, "Look, I have medical doctors travel me everywhere. Every president does, as you know. Medical doctors, some of the best in the world, travel me everywhere I go. I have an ongoing assessment of what I'm doing. They don't hesitate to tell me if they think there's something wrong."
I know you said you have an ongoing assessment. Have you had a full neurological and cognitive evaluation?
I get a full neurological test every day with me. And I've had
Oh, come on.
physical. I had, you know, I mean, I've been at Walter Reed for my physicals. I mean, yes, the answer is.
I know your doctor said he consulted with a neurologist. I guess I'm asking a slightly different question. Have you had the specific cognitive tests, and have you had a neurologist, a specialist, do an examination?
No, no one said I had to. No one said, they said I'm good.
Would you be willing to undergo an independent medical evaluation that included neurological and cognitive tests and release the results?
Absolutely not. He will not do that.
I have a cognitive test every single day. Every day I have that test. Everything I do. You know, not only am I campaigning, but I'm running the world. And that's not how it sounds like hyperbole. But we are the essential nation in the world. Madeleine Albright was right. And every single day, for example, today, before I come out here, I'm on the phone with the Prime Minister of, well, anyway, I shouldn't get into detail, but with Netanyahu. I'm on the phone with the new Prime Minister of England. I'm working on what we're doing with regard to, in Europe, with regard to expansion of NATO and whether it's going to stick. I'm taking on Putin. I mean, every day.
He's taking on Putin.
I go through, they're not those decisions I have to make every single day.
And you have been doing that, and the American people have been watching, yet their concerns about your age and your health are growing. So that's why I'm asking, to reassure them, would you be willing to have the independent medical evaluation?
Watch me between, there's a lot of time left in this campaign.
They are watching you. That's the issue.
So the
They'll
answer,
make a decision.
the right answer right now is no, you don't want to do that right
No,
now.
I've already done it.
You talked a lot about your successes at the beginning of this interview, and I don't want to dispute that. I don't want to debate that. But as you know, elections are about the future, not the past. They're about tomorrow, not yesterday. And the question on so many people's minds right now is, can you serve effectively for the next 4 years?
George.
There's no way.
I'm the guy that put NATO together, the future. No one thought I could expand it. I'm the guy that shut Putin down. No one thought could happen. I'm the guy that put together the South Pacific Initiative with AUKUS. I'm the guy that got 50 nations, out, not only in Europe, outside of Europe as well, to help Ukraine. I'm the guy that got Japanese to expand their budget. So I mean, and for example, when I decided we used to have 40% of the computer chip in it. We invented the chip, that little chip, the computer chip. It's in everything from cell phones to weapons. And so we used to have 40%, we're down to virtually nothing. So I get in the plane against the advice of everybody, and I fly to South Korea. I convinced them to invest in the United States billions of dollars. Now we have tens of billions of dollars being invested in the United States, making us back in a position where we're going to own that industry again. We have, I mean,
He literally asked him about future plans, and he rambled on about his past.
too much credit. I have a great staff.
But I guess my point is, all that takes a toll. Do you have the mental and physical capacity to do it for another 4 years?
I believe so. I wouldn't be running if I didn't think I did. Look, I'm running again because I think I understand best what has to be done to take this nation to a completely new level. We're on our way. We're on our way. And look, the decision recently made by the Supreme Court on immunity, you know, the next president of the United States, it's not just about whether he or she knows what they're doing. It's not about a conglomerate of people making decisions. It's about the character of the president. The character of the president is going to determine whether or not this Constitution is employed the right way.
Let me ask you a tougher, more personal question. Are you sure you're being honest with yourself when you say you have the mental and physical capacity?
Wow, he's double downing on this.
George, the last thing I want to do is not be able to meet that. I think, as some of the senior economists and senior foreign policy specialists say, if I stop now, I'd go down in history as a pretty successful president. No one thought I could get done what we got done.
But are you being honest with yourself as well about your ability to defeat Donald Trump right now?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
You say that, and let me challenge you.
You say that, but I don't know about that, bro.
You're further behind now, by any measure. It's been a two-man race for several months. Inflation has come down. In those last few months, he's become a convicted felon, yet you're still falling further behind.
You guys keep saying that. George,
That's crazy.
You know polling better than anybody. Do you think polling data is accurate as it used to be?
This guy's a felon.
So, but I think when you look at all of the polling data right now, it shows that he's certainly ahead in the popular vote, probably even more ahead in the battleground states. And one of the other key factors there is it shows that in many of the battleground states, the Democrats who are running for Senate and the House are doing better than you are.
He's back to that look of defeat in his face.
That's not unusual in some states. I carried an awful lot of Democrats last time I ran in 2020. Look, I remember them telling me the same thing in 2020. I can't win. The polls show I can't win. Remember 2020, the red wave was coming. Before the vote, I said, that's not going to happen. We're going to win. We did better in an off year than almost any incumbent president ever has done. They said in 2023, all the tough races, we're not going to win. I went into all those areas, all those districts, and we won.
All that is true, but 2020 was a close race. And your approval rating has dropped significantly since then. I think the last poll I saw was about 36%. The number of Americans who think you're too old to serve has doubled since 2020.
It's not that he's a bad person, he's just old.
Calculus tell you that it's going to be much tougher to win in 2024.
Not when you're running against a pathological liar. Not when he hadn't been challenged in a way that he's about to be challenged. Not when people...
You've had months to challenge him.
Oh, I sure had months, but I was also doing a hell of a lot of other things, like wars around the world, like keeping NATO together.
I was leading the country, man.
But look,
do you really believe you're not behind right now?
I think it's all the pollsters I talk to tell me it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up. And when I'm behind,
it's not a
there's only
toss-up.
one poll I'm really far behind. CBS poll and NBC. And
New York Times and NBC both have you about 6 points behind in the popular vote.
That's exactly right. New York Times had me behind before anything having to do with this race. Had me behind 10 points. 10 points had me behind. Nothing's changed substantially in the debate, the New York Times poll.
Just when you look at the reality, though, Mr. President, I mean, you won the popular vote in 2020, but it was still deadly close in the electoral college.
Votes.
Yes, but you're behind now in the popular vote.
I don't buy that.
Is it worth the risk?
I don't think anybody's more qualified to be president or win this race than me.
You know, the heart of your case against Donald Trump is that he's only out for himself, putting his personal interest ahead of the national interest. How do you respond to critics who say that by staying in the race, you're doing the same thing?
Oh, come on.
These are good questions. I've never actually seen them interview a Democrat like this.
Trump is a pathological liar. Trump is, he is. Have you ever seen anything Trump did that benefited somebody else, not him?
When all else fails, you just got to blame Trump. Back to blaming Trump.
Him and his allies as persistently as any journalist has.
No, I know you have. I'm not being critical.
Yeah.
I'm not being critical. But look, I mean, the man is a congenital liar. As I said, they pointed out in that debate he lied 27, 28 times the times, or whatever number, over 20 times. Talk about how good his economy was, how he brought down inflation, how this is a guy who, unlike only other president other than him is Hoover, lost more jobs than he created. This is a guy who told us to put bleach in our arms to deal with COVID, when over a million people died.
Back to that.
Talks about wanting to get rid of the healthcare provisions we put in place. This is a guy who wants to give the power back to big pharma to be able to charge exorbitant prices for drugs. This is a guy who wants to undo every single thing I've done. Every single thing.
I understand that. I understand that's why you want to stay in the race. But have you convinced yourself that only you can defeat him?
I convinced myself of two things. I'm the most qualified person to beat him, and I know how to get things done.
I don't think so. There's a younger candidate out there.
Defeat Donald Trump, will you stand down?
It depends if the Lord Almighty comes out and tells me that, I might do that.
Well, I mean, on a more practical level, Washington Post just reported in the last hour that Senator Mark Warner is assembling a group of senators together to try and convince you to stand down because they don't think you can win.
Well, Mark is a good man. We've never had that. He also tried to get the nomination too. Mark's not. Mark and I have a different perspective. I respect him.
And if Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi come down and say, we're worried that if you stay in the race, we're going to lose the House and the Senate, how will you respond?
I go into detail with them. I've spoken to all of them in detail, including Jim Clyburn. Every one of them. They all said I should stay in the race. Stay in the race. None of the people said I should leave.
But if they do?
Well, it's like, they're not going to do that.
You sure?
Well, yeah, I'm sure. Look, I mean, if the Lord Almighty came down and said, Joe, get out of the race, I get out of the race, the Lord Almighty's not coming down. I mean, these hypotheticals, George,
But it's not that hypothetical anymore. I grant that they have not requested the meeting, but it's been reported.
I met with them. I've met with a lot of these people.
You're not going to convince him that he's going to lose.
I had an hour conversation with Akeem. I had more time with that than Jim Clyburn. I spent time with many hours off and on the last little bit with Chuck Schumer. It's not like I had all the governors.
I agree that the Lord Almighty is not going to come down, but if you are told reliably from your allies, from your friends and supporters in the Democratic Party, in the House and the Senate, that they're concerned you're going to lose the House and the Senate if you stay in, what will you do?
I'm not going to answer that question. It's not going to happen.
He's not going to step down.
What's your plan to turn the campaign around?
You saw it today. How many people do you draw crowds like I drew today? You find me any more enthusiastic than today? Huh?
I mean, I don't think you want to play the card. Donald Trump can draw big crowds. There's no question about that.
He can draw a big crowd, but what does he say? Who's he have? I'm the guy supposedly in trouble. We raised $38 million within 4 days after this. We have over 1 million individual contributors. Less than $200.
Less than $200. What's he talking about?
I've seen what you're proposing.
What?
You haven't seen the fall off in the polls. You haven't seen the reports of discontent in the Democratic Party, House Democrats, Senate Democrats.
I've seen it from the press.
You know, I've heard from dozens of your supporters over the last few days, and a variety of views. I grant you that. But the prevailing sentiment is this. They love you, and they will be forever grateful to you for defeating Donald Trump in 2020. They think you've done a great job as president, a lot of the successes you outlined. But they are worried about you and the country, and they don't think you can win. They want you to go with grace, and they will cheer you if you do. What do you say to them?
I say the vast majority are not where those folks are. I don't doubt there's some folks there. Have you ever seen a group at time when elected officials running for office aren't a little worried? Have you ever seen that? I've not. Same thing happened in 2020. Oh, Biden, I don't know, man. What's he going to do? He may bring me down. He may.
Mr. President, I've never seen a president at 36% approval get reelected.
Well, I don't believe that's my approval rate. That's not what our polls show.
And if you stay in and Trump is elected and everything you're warning about comes to pass, how will you feel in January?
I feel as long as I gave it my all and I did the goodest job as I know I can do. That's what this is about. Look, George, think of it this way.
Taking this ship to the ground.
You've heard me say this before. I think the United States and the world is at an inflection point where the things that happen in the next several years are going to determine what the next 6, 7 decades look like. And who's going to be able to hold NATO together like me? Who's going to be able to be in a position where I'm able to keep the Pacific Basin in a position where we're at least checkmating China now? Who's going to do that?
I don't know about that, man.
Who knows all these? We're going to have, I guess, a good way to judge me is you're going to have now the NATO conference here in the United States next week. Come listen. See what they say.
Mr. President, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Wow.
Also for a one-on-one interview to Donald Trump after the debate. He declined.
Decline.
Let's bring in our political team for what they're hearing.
All right. I don't care about their opinion at all. So yeah, chat, that is Biden talking about his loss at the debate. That's crazy. But there it is. All right, I'm going to shut this one down and then come back in a little bit and play some Manor Lords. So just give me a second.